is a big part of it. And I think that the world might not have the notions that we take for granted because we've been in crypto, and we have certain privileges that some people don't. And I was hearing yesterday how in Colombia, supposedly, and I think Ecuador, like crypto is outright illegal. That's what someone was telling me. And I didn't know that, like to that extent. And we were talking about India, who you can't even get out of an exchange. You have to do everything on the exchange. So education of possibilities, of other options. And I think that is very much a part of what Zen is and should be about, because it goes hand in hand with everything else that it's about, the freedom and the self-sovereignty and all that stuff, and the Zen education. So that's a cool thing to, so that's why, like, when we're talking about maybe surrogate and helping people to onboard, like a whole educational aspect to it, like just explaining, like, this is how you do things, and you can do that, if you can come here, and you can on board, you can talk to somebody. Look, this person is part of this program. Communicate with them. They just want to make sure you're not a bot. you know they they want to just strike a real human relationship, and you have this option, and you just need to do this and that, and yeah, in many ways, the education, right? And people are very, very, what I'm noticing is people are very inspired and passionate when you actually start talking about that, like, the benevolent the aspect of Zen. And I think it's very fitting, and I think it's an intrinsic part of it. And I think Jack, he's the perfect he's a great founder for that. I don't We don't need to wait for another um project or founder, because the founder is important, the founder of something. And he's essentially impeccable for that, and the intention that he has behind it. So, I kind of
Yeah,
feel
he,
this is it. This is it. It's like Zen is happening, and we've been waiting for it for years, for something like it. And it feels to me like this just be it. The new, the next step.
yeah, Jack's great because he's very good at communicating anything from like the ethos to the tech. He really knows what he's talking about, and it's easy to for like anyone to find him a trustworthy person. But at the same time, he's not he's not built into the protocol in a way that builds up dependencies on him, right? So that's great. Um, the 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 thing that will be interesting to see is the development of Zen, um, in the way we can onboard, because we need to onboard, like we don't need to complicate it too much. In DeFi, things get complicated very easy, and it's great for Zen to be there because it's about getting this economic energy and uniting all these networks, which Zen can do like brilliantly. But when it comes to onboarding, it's really like just the basics. People just need to get a wallet and some gas, and then interact with the protocol with a few clicks, and they're in. Um, so I think it's all about how to find strategies, how to. It's really amazing to hear. I hear it every day. People are like, yeah, Sun is amazing because I'm talking with my kids about this and my parents, and for the first time, like Aliki said today, like I've been trying to tell my colleagues about crypto for 6 years, but for the first time they can also relate to something and they understand it. that's amazing to hear. um I'm thinking a lot about this, like where I myself am going to put a lot of like, because there's so many different routes we can proceed with this right now. I mean, we're going as fast as we can to every chain possible, um, starting with the EVM world.
Brilliantly,
Um,
brilliantly, and beyond anyone's, you know, I mean, who would have thought, right? Like what, 7 chains in 9 days or so? It's incredible, right? So that part is just settled. And now everybody's coming, and I think it's important that everybody, as much as you're trying to keep pace, and everybody closely involved is trying to keep pace, but then people are getting inspired. Like yesterday in the conversation, like people, one guy was, well, Aliki was saying how, he's had these ideas for a long time, but then he kind of put them on the shelf and was a little bit discouraged, given the way crypto is going. And it's now all of a sudden, it's like he's super excited again. He's like, he was really wanting to now do that project that he's been kind of working on for years. And he says, I'm super like excited and passionate, and I've been hearing this left and right, right? So I've been trying to help in that, in talking about it, listening, and trying to hook, people up, and help myself, and uh, have people talk to each other. And in that same way, the community is going to want to, try to keep pace and move it forward. So yeah, obviously there's some coordination that needs to be done to some extent, but I think there could be different people that kind of work together. And ultimately, if it's all under the same ethos, um, and we keep having these conversations and reinforcing what every this is all about, freedom and possibilities and potentiality and creativity and all that. Uh, I mean, we'll get the most out of everything, and things need not be perfect. Nothing is perfect. Um, I've been actually talking about this, like, just if we focus on the essentials and the essentials, and I think you're a perfect example of that. Like you tempt you seem to tend to want to come back and to the essential and what matters most. There's no telling, all that can happen and how the chips will fall. But yeah, there's a lot of creativity and inspiration happening.
the thing is, like, our our s- our strategy is um pretty aggressive, I guess you can say, in the sense that the protocol is so lightweight, and if there's no reason to really wait with adopting Zen to chain, then we're just gonna go ahead and do it, and then some strategic iterations come into mind behind the scenes, like where to go next. But it's not like, so that's all fine, but at that um speed of development, it really comes with its drawbacks as well. Like, in the sense that you can't have a community that is 100% um, like educated about how to deal with everything on every chain all the time. So, which they don't need to
But do you need
either.
to?
They can
Yeah,
just like
exactly.
stick to one
You
chain,
don't
and
need
then as they feel like there's no need for them to adopt every chain at the same time. They can just keep to one chain. But my point is that like super rapid integration of all the chains at the same time, there's a lot of things that can't be like explained by some like team. That, there's some sort of team, but there's also no team. We're all just a community here. So it's really like to find a way where this like hive mind can because that's what you see in a lot of different crypto projects. You have a hardworking team that works day and night, year after year, and then you have community just sitting waiting for them to release stuff, basically. Um, but what we want with Zen is a community that's more of a democracy, um, where you have some coordination centrally in a way, just to make sure that you're creating a platform for others to have a safe place for creativity, uh, but at the same time that you can minimize that as much as possible so people can just go ahead with ideas. And of course, and then the optimal thing is if you could have like Jack, and some other core, just sort of like communicate what is safe and what is not. uh, but then you have the community sort of working as a self-cleansing organism to
Well,
verify.
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, like as I'm listening to you speak, and it just things come to mind. Like, okay, so there's the expansion of the network, the speed at which it's establishing itself on these different chains, and all the technical aspects of that, and that's been dealt with brilliantly so far. Obviously, there's challenges in explaining to people and trying to get the info, and that's one dimension. But there's another dimension which is, you know, like that would be the horizontal dimension, but there's the vertical dimension, which is, the depth of the engagement. Because it's one thing to go widespread, but if it's just so superficial and just about making a little money, a little profit, that's a loss, right? That's not good. And I think that's the more essential thing, and it's the more powerful thing, because yeah, the speed and adapting to all those complexities, and as long as those who are onboarding are feeling more and more like this is something different, right? This is not what it has been, and that they can get engaged, and contribute. Uh, it's surprising that force, and that's what I've been seeing. So I would tend to say that whilst Jack and have been dealing great with all the technicalities and the infrastructure, kind of those aspects, it's it's going to uh, the all we need really, all the people need really, is tools, and we need to kind of try to consolidate those things one by one, best we can, because obviously best we can. We can't do better than that. So like Joe Blau, for example, and trying to coordinate him with, because he's available and he's inspired, and there's many others like him, and try to bring those most essential tools in the best order possible, because just so that people can start building upon. It's like the blocks, but in the right order. So now he took care of like an alternate site. Now he's taking care of wallet management DApp, which he's actually working on right now, as far as I know. Um, for people's multiple hundred wallets, and to be able to keep track, and that be beautiful and well organized for everybody. Um, and then there's all these other aspects, the social, making the connections, and having those connections, working on that aspect, and so on and so forth. And they'll that they come in the best order. If you know Jack, or any kind of leading guide, would be just to kind of be helpful and I'm sure he is mindful of that, of the more essential things, and the build upon, just to give some guidance, right? And we can all contribute to that, you know yourself, myself, those who are here more often and more engaged, to thinking about what is the better order, and just helping and implementing them. And then all this other energy comes in, and it just, you see what I'm saying? It's like it's not chaotic. It's mindful. um we're a team, we're a community, but we are a team as well because those people have a certain engagement, a certain depth of engagement, like they're actually serious about it. And that's what I've been noticing, as opposed to many other groups or projects that I've seen and how they develop. The engagement sometimes is lacking. Yeah, sure, they have their function, they have their, that guy does the code, that the guy does the graphic, but sometimes often a lack of emotional engagement and the cohesiveness that comes from that, the super, like in these conversations that we've had in the chat, like these very different personalities, different views, able to argue and get past disagreements and in the end agree just because they care about it. They actually care about Zen more than that other coin in their bag for whatever reason, but yeah, I think with good reason. It's been something to witness. I'm trying to relate something that to me has been very tangible. I've witnessed in a very tangible way, and which is somewhat of a novelty.
Did Did you guys hear the? Um, there was a YouTube video released by some guy called 333 Crypto. Um, he named it Proofs and Sen Tokenomics Explained. I thought he just nailed it in his talk. I'm gonna post it right now in the group. I recommend you all listen to it. So
Actually,
he
remember,
sort of like just understood it right away. Why, like, the concept of Zen. I never heard anyone explain it in that way. Jack's been like he's on fire. I think he did like 5 AMAs yesterday. He even did one like on the like from picking up his daughter from school in between that and he was coming from the gym for 30 minutes just in his car while he was driving. He's just being everywhere, um, talking, which is great. It's very rare to have a leader of a project to be so communicative and really open to go everywhere. It's pretty
he's
great.
great. He is, and I have
We,
been
we, we
talking
just
about
need to
that.
get him in front of like the right audience with the right camera. Um,
But I think he is. I mean, from what I'm hearing, I've been talking about it. I've just been, well, just pointing it out. It's like to several people. Like he just has the way I word it, and I've been saying is to me, Jack is somebody that has what I call like you know uh he just puts his he has like what I call true intelligence, in the sense that he uses his intelligence. He listens, he takes the time to he's responsive, he one thing at a time. He's not trying to grasp to anything particularly, he's not pushing something, he's following his own intuition and his own intelligence. And I personally, I see that very clearly, and I saw that very early on. That's why I was so quickly in the Zen project, because I saw it and I heard it from him. And I think people are, and people might not recognize it at first, but the more you listen and you more to see how he is, I think he's uh, a great beacon of just inspiration wherever he'll go. And just people need time to get into the whole community. And like you were there in the beginning, and you're like, that's what consolidated it for me when I came in here. After seeing Jack and like saying, oh, this guy is like, he seems to be like the real deal, right? And I came in here, and then you were there, and then I listened to you, and you were like, to me, like you were like the main admin, right? And I was like, damn, like this the guy that's taking care of this is like aligned in the same way. So and then that's when I was like, okay, this is the real deal. So the more we just keep with that ethos and that way of just being open minded and listening and responding, I think we've got this. I mean, I
Yeah,
sincerely,
it's as you say, like things are like so easily coming together, and I think that's because it's a principle based. It's like a first principles first based protocol. You know, and that's why it's so easy to comprehend. If you have another protocol that's based on some like logic of any kind, um, logic can be interpreted differently, but values is something that is like you either share a value or you don't. It's more like binary in the sense. You know, you're either for decentralization
yeah.
or centralization, right? So if you're for decentralization, then like that opens up like
The word I
another
use,
type of logic that goes like very against centralized kind of logic. If you're against like custody is also like super binary. So since I think it's so like that it's so the values are like so deep, so
yes, I
you
think
can't
that
get a more lower what is the word common
the word
denominator and
I
values.
think the word you're alluding to, what you're describing, like the word is resonates. It resonates whether you know it or not, whether you think it or not. You can't help it, logic or not. When it's
Right.
true, yeah, you resonate. You may not get it why you're resonating, understand, be able to verbalize it, put the finger on it, but you're resonating. And I think
Right.
that's the, yeah,
And, and then you but then you have to sort of make strategic compromises along the way. And one good example of that is, you know, we began with ETH as the main chain, and then of course we can't be an exclusive community. We if you limit you can't limit your market. Um, so we want to be everywhere, but then that means we have to go to more centralized, you know, entities like Binance is one of them. But and then the argument for doing so is like instead of like if we were to only stick with the chains that we are mostly value aligned with, then we couldn't be everywhere. We couldn't make Zen be everywhere, which it needs to be if it's going to have any potential to be even a P2P. So we need to be at Binance. But what we can see right now is, which is pretty cool, which happened way faster than we thought. Like the idea was okay, but then we can infiltrate Binance with first principles values. And already now, if you go to what is it? What's the name? Like BSC. It's like their version of Etherscan. At some point, we were second, so we were actually we had more transactions than the BNB token, um, which is pretty cool. Like that is like infiltrating first principles into a centralized chains. Like that's pretty damn awesome. Because now we get the attention there, and people are going to be like, hey, what's crypto? And then they're going to hear the whole, you know, 20,000 people just printing in first principles values into them, and they're going to be like, oh, I didn't know that this could be done there. And then when we onboard new people, you know, when you onboard your grandma, your like kids into this, and this is the first, like people in Colombia or whatever, China, India, if Zen becomes like the first approach to economic, you know, transfer, um, then that's going to be their like standard. So when they go to when they interact with other centralized networks, they're going to have the question like, hey, why do I have to give up custody here to get a loan where on the in the Zen ecosystem I don't have to do that?
right.
We are transforming them.
Right. Hello. How you doing, Made Stardust?
Hello. Good, good. I saw that you were here after a few days. I said, let's
Yeah.
hear what Zensu
Yeah,
has
you're
to say.
yeah, I'm happy to talk again. Your mic is much better now. I'm happy to
I
hear
didn't do
that.
anything.
Oh, really? It's the same.
Yeah, yeah.
I Guys, you need to go to zencrypto.io. Made of Stardust made a really nice article about the events that have been taking place lately. Zen increasing crypto adoption in a 7-chain move. She's really good at writing articles. You should read it. It's about how Zen has been basically taking over all these 7 chains, or are about to.
I'm guessing this is in the Learn tab menu.
Zen Crypto.io, and then it's on the first page there. Get to know Zen. If you scroll down a little bit,
I got it.
did you change the site, Made of Starbucks? Is it like now you
Yeah,
scroll?
it's it's not finished. It will be much more better.
Looks beautiful. It's very
No,
nice
no,
look.
it will be much more better. You will be surprised.
Oh, really? I
Oh,
think it's pretty
yeah,
cool right now. Nice.
it's
They
very,
added a
very,
mint
very
send
nice
button,
already.
so you go to that's a nice feature. And then learn, you get to all the articles. It's pretty great. Love it. Yeah, what I love with this is that they didn't ask permission or anything. They just did it right away. Bam. And this was early on. Like, what made you do this? You just picked this up like super early. Like within the first weeks you were in the community, and then you're just like, this is great. Let's go with this. How was the thought process there, Made of Stardust? We're really positively surprised. Are you there, Made of Stardust?
Yeah, my guess is she probably felt like what I was alluding to, like that I've been seeing all over the place, like a lot of just spontaneous inspiration and sense of like, yes, this has meaning, this is meaningful. Anyway, that's what comes through. You know how it is. If you're not inspired by something and it's just for monetary gain, for example, that doesn't cut it. Not really, unless you're like super expert and has so much experience. But when people get engaged, the things that they can come up with, unexpected, beyond their own expectations. And yeah, I mean, yeah, we missed you. I mean, we had such great conversations. There's one I was just thinking of, like, we have a recording of it, and it's really worthwhile, I find, to listen to that one. And it relates to what you were saying a little bit about Binance and those things. Like, it was incredible. There was Jack of Hearts, there was Crypto Goose, there was many other people, Carrega, very different personalities, and it was like a 2 hour long conversation. And we went through oh, there was this guy, he came in, DJ something, man, he was like it was just like genius what he was saying, but it was just out of the blue. He was like, yeah, maybe, I don't know, like, this may sound foolish, but I think And he was just nailing it on the head. And it was basically, we were talking about, the conversation was what brings value? That was the question that we were raising, to try to answer, right? So what is it that brings value? In other words, we were using the example of the US dollar. So what is it that made that the US dollar became the reserve currency and a strong currency? So we went through the history of the US and how they did it by offering something of value, right? At the time it was gold. And then we were going back and forth, and people had certain disagreements about like why and what, and the factual, but then we got through that. And then it was like, and then they used the petrodollar when they couldn't back buy gold anymore. They closed that window, and it was the petrodollar agreement. And that was a very different thing. It was like, it was not so cool, right? They forced the whole world to use the US dollar to buy oil. But the point of it was that the conclusion was that ultimately what the trick was you have to create the demand. It was all about creating the demand. Ultimately, that's how that's what they did, right? And then they became the reserve currency. And once you become the reserve currency, you kind of like, you got the ball rolling. You don't have to really be offering new things, like you have that status. So then the question became, so what can Zen, if we know it, you have to offer something of value to get the demand, what can Zen offer? And then that I remember is when that guy came up and he said, it's like, I've been looking at it. This might seem like, but he said, I think Zen is going to be about the internet. And I have this impression that, it's going to be based on Ethereum. Like Ethereum is going to be the underlying thing that's going to it's going to use Zen. And it's going to be about the internet. And then I said, like, you mean like the Web3 and all that? Yeah, like, yeah, exactly. And we just kept going on, and yeah, it was very interesting. And then it was turning into, okay, so what, like some guy, Carrega, he was like, yeah, but what can we do with it? Like, what can we actually do with it? Like, what can people buy with it? And then we're like, well, just like anything and everything, like ultimately. But it'll start with this. So then the conversation turned to the fact that the trick was, if you have the user adoption, what happens is the market, the commerce, the merchants, the developers, the people with the capital, okay, they turn their attention, and then what happens is that they come to you, right? So because everybody's so concerned, okay, what do we have to do? What do we have to do now? Like, what's the next step? But and I was bringing the idea, like, actually, we're doing exactly what we need to do. We're doing that first step, and that's the user adoption, and it's been going great, and we're breaking records, and we just need to keep that and keep doing that. And what's going to happen next is the market is going to come to us because of that user adoption. And then what's going to happen, right, is they're going to bring us opportunities and products that they want to tap into, our user base, right? So what that's going to do is now then other people are going to want to use those things, or going to tap into that marketplace that's laying itself in front of us. So that's going to create more demand. And then when you're going to get more demand for the currency, because they want to use it in that merchant or that DApp or that developer, or that project or that airdrop, right? Because we'll be getting people, they'll say, well, we'll airdrop to the Zen users because that's the biggest base, right? It just seems logical. So now they're making projects which, can be coupled with the Zen token and this and that and the other. So now more people want the Zen token. So you have more demand. And you have more demand, the marketplace comes even more so to you. So it's a loop that starts creating. You get the ball rolling that way. And then once that gets big enough, well, that's how you become a reserve currency, basically. I mean, so to speak. Reserve currency doesn't mean that says on a paper you're the reserve currency, or any president decided that it was that. It means it's the most widely used currency. And then the conversation turned that ultimately it wasn't about becoming the reserve currency, that wasn't the objective, or the only currency, or the best ultimate currency, but that you could become a valuable currency. And that even though the US dollar was the reserve currency, it had competing currencies all along its history, and it was not the only currency. But if you're a valuable and one that's in demand, bingo, like that's all we need to reach to, and the whole loop of it and how it happens. So I think that's what's going to happen when you talk like a Binance, or for example, or whatever other big entity out there. They will come to us inevitably, and as long as we continue the user adoption and growing the community and listening
Well,
and understanding what the community really resonates with, right?
right. Like what was, yeah, exactly. Instead of us having a fixed idea, let's release this energy and see what is being created with it. Um, it, so that's why we can't make a roadmap of something, because it really depends on, like, we created something here. Let's see what the high mind thinks about this. Now, what was his idea there, that, like, okay, it could be like,
Yeah.
it could be something. I wonder what he meant with what, like, did you investigate that further? Did you go that route of thought,
The
like
Ethereum,
that
the
could be
Ethereum,
something that others be built on? Because my thought there was, it was interesting when, the internet was like based on top of telephony, on copper lines. When we, like, had in the 80s, 90s, it was these dial-up tones to connect to the internet, for those of you who remember. And then internet became sort of like bigger than telephone, and then you realized we put telephone on top of internet instead, through voice over IP. um, so actually Alex Machinsky was part of developing that. uh, but yeah, like, so it's interesting when you can have two different technologies that are then like switching the layer of which they appear in. So I was just curious if you went
yeah,
deeper into that route of
yeah, yes,
having economic
exactly.
energy being as the base instead of on top.
We did, and there was a developer there. So Carrega is a developer. He's been doing things for a few years, and Solidity. Uh, and he knows the technical things, right? He's very good with understanding the blockchains and the hardware and the software aspect and the nodes and all that stuff. So, and he was very much, that's when because he was a little bit argumentative on certain things, the history of the US and those things. But that's when you could see he was like, yeah, like he could see that happening. And the guy, what he was, because we did dig a little bit deeper, and it was basically, he was saying that he thinks that in 20 years from now, not so many people will have Ethereum. Like, it's not going to be the kind of asset that it has been before, where you could have a few Ethereum, and it's always become less, but used to be you could have quite a few Ethereum. And still now, people can have a whole Ethereum or two or three, but 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 that in 20 years that might not be the case, because Ethereum's role, that basically it's likely, it doesn't mean that this is exactly like the asset, but that some asset would, likely Ethereum would take the whole role of how we've maybe thought of Bitcoin for quite a while as being like the layer one, but in the DeFi and all these EVMs, would be Ethereum. And that it needs to have uh, something to do the functions that it can't take care of, right? The things, and that's where Zen comes in. And he thought that Zen was going to be the one. because Ethereum is making use of all the chains. I mean, the economic energy is on all the chains spread out, but it's going back and forth more so, I would think, with Ethereum than any other chain, right? In the convergence, of the economic energy. So it's kind of already serving as a how do you say, a turning table, okay? And things is going back and forth in terms of the economic energy and the capital. But you have all kinds of utilities on different chains, but it goes and it comes back and it's revolving like that. But you need this token. You need something to do all the people stuff, because that's not the people layer. The Ethereum can't be used for all those transactions, right? So it made perfect sense, for the whole Web3 and all that. And sure, there'll be other tokens and all that, but there's one that could be more spread widely and more economical and more practical and more spread, in the user's hands, because you have to have the currency in the user's hands. Again, that comes to the reserve currency concept and the demand. US dollar is the most widely spread out dollar at the currency and in tremendous amounts. And that's what gives it, that's what makes the US dollar strong. It's not just like, oh, there's that much dollars and you do the counting and that it means worth that much. No, there's trillions of US dollars. Like, if we had put them all together, it wouldn't be worth anything. Honestly, it wouldn't be worth anything because there's so many of them. But the demand that people hold them and governments hold them in bonds and debt and all that, that's what is it. It's that the US is the strongest currency right now and holds its value.
Yeah,
So
it's a lot of like artificial demand built into it, right?
Well, it's demand, it's that pull, right? Like, we want it, we'll keep it, we'll hold it. A stake, for example, is like a bond, a treasury bond, long-term, 30-year bond that somebody's holding, right? They're essentially holding the currency, and China has, and all the major countries have traditionally had these US bonds, right? It's like staking. If everyone on staked everything and just dumped it, what would happen with the value of it? It would just crash. So Zen has that perfectly built in, the staking mechanism and all that. So if you bring on top of that, you bring the use case, the actual medium of exchange aspect to it. So now not only do you have it staked and people holding bonds of it, but you're putting in the hands of millions and millions of people that need it. They need it in their pocket. They need it in their bank account. They need it to spend it. They need it to give it to their kids, Then, like, right. So it's demand. It just holds it all. So yeah, Ethereum coupled with Zen, that's what he was seeing. And he seemed to like, that's what really it seemed clear to him. It was fascinating to see how he was talking about it.
It doesn't even have to be Ethereum. It depends if Ethereum can sustain the traffic, because the more people will come, it will be more difficult. But it can be anything, but there will be always Zen, because it will be the most widespread distribution, and yeah, after it can be anything.
Exactly. And I'm quite sure that if it works and it functions and Ethereum makes it work, they will find solutions to open another, another central bank or whatever it is that manages the currency or what the mechanism is. But, they'll find solutions, or someone else will. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's called the Internet of Value because we'll be transferring the value. Right now, there is Internet of Data, so you send packets, that data in the packets in this Internet protocol. And blockchain is the Internet of Value, where you send data in tokens, and they also contain the value. No, there are not only the data, but also the value. So this is why why it's so revolutionary, no?
Yeah, a new language, a whole other dimension to it. Yeah.
So your
That-
share in this, for example, if it will be Zen, because yeah, it will be the reserve currency. Your share in this reserve currency will be your share in the Internet of Value.
it reminds me, like as you say that, it reminds me of I don't know if you were there earlier, but I was talking about the possibility of a Zen social media kind of platform, and I was talking about like little emoticons where a thumbs up, gives you 1 Zen, or a little heart is 5 Zens and things like that. But I was talking about how it brings another dimension to the communication and the relationships. So now if you give a thumbs up, it's not just a likey, okay, a like, but there's something, yeah, I really like you, or I really like what you're saying, right? And you're actually giving something and it's value.
Yeah, for example, there is already this thing with Bitcoin and Lightning. They did the Fountain app for podcasters, where you hear their podcasts and you send them sats. This is a really nice app, and there are a lot of developments in Bitcoin Lightning. And for example, they have also this Chrome extension. It's called Albi, where you take this extension and after you can send sats to YouTubers, whoever. So it will be that easy, because it is easy now with Bitcoin and sats, and it will be easy with Zen, that is much more decentralized.
Yes, and this brings up something else that I've thought of, which is I feel that Zen is a time and place where we can take all of the lessons of all the other projects that we've had in the last decade, and just bring all the good stuff. Everything that we know is possible and that we've seen attempted in one way or another, but maybe did not succeed, perfectly well in the way it was implemented and the time it was implemented. But it's a place where now we can really bring all the best of the best ideas and notions, and just do it, bring it all together, like unabashedly, right?
Yeah, the one currency wins that is the most marketable. So right now, Zen made 10 million accounts in 10 days. Okay, so this is incredible, because if you watch at Bitcoin or some other coin, they had to wait years to achieve this number. Here, 10 days.
Yeah. People are astounded. That guy I was talking with yesterday, who's not too much, I was telling him the numbers, and he's like, he knows the numbers. He knows the projects of the past and about how many wallets and what. It's like, man, that's like incredible.
Yeah, it's like it's viral tokenomics built in, and it's based on values. It's two very strong, um, and it's incentivized community. incentivize cooperation. These ingredients together is like why it grows so well, I think. So you have the values at the base, then you have you're incentivized to share your knowledge, like literally. Um, it has a higher purpose that like just having projects that are like that just gonna grow your bag is fine, but it's kind of boring. Um, in a
Very
way.
one dimensional.
It's
One
much, yeah, it's
dimension.
very one dimensional. It's much more fun to have something that could really work, like that could really fit into like a lot of different use cases. Um, and
And the
we're
thing is
only
that
on day
by
like
adding,
9, and we're seeing a lot of like creativity spurring already. So I don't think it's going to take long before we like see like actual really cool use cases. Sorry, honeydeals.
and no, I was just to say, and when you add a new dimension, like a whole new dimension, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're just now going to end up with two dimensions, because now all of a sudden you just created a whole new world, of itself. So it's much more than just two dimensions. Now you're another sphere of things. And as I'm listening to both of you, like the think about this, it's as if now there'll be the option, the possibility, not just to convey information or data, even between users, but value, like true value, like value that they can translate to whatever they want, food on their table, or whatever. And it just strengthens the relationships. It strengthens the projects. It strengthens the creativity. It strengthens the output, the motivation. Is it very, very powerful? Like people, when we're coming from one paradigm, it's difficult to see the next. Like you put a foot in it, you don't necessarily see it yet. And someone was asking me a question the other day about, I forget exactly what the thing, but it was somewhat of like, what's the point? What's the, like, yeah, so what about it? And whatever he was saying, I just gave the example. I'd say that's like saying when YouTube began back in the day, when people would watch television and everything were on like very specific networks, and you had to get hired and be an actor, and that's how you got money. And it's like someone would have said, no, but how could YouTube work? Like, how could you make money with YouTube? How could you have a channel when there's going to be a million channels and it's free and anybody could use it? Anybody could open a channel and there's going to be like a million videos. Like, how is that going to be profitable for anybody? Right? Someone could think that, thinking you need to have the company and the network and all the marketing and all focused like that. But what happened in reality was very different. And all of a sudden, a whole bunch of people can actually just from their own free will, just open a channel and be creative and have their own channel and actually monetize it. But who would have seen that at that time? That was not so
Right, right.
predictable.
Right, and it's the same thing with Google. I mean, it took them years to even figure out how they were gonna make money on it. Like all they had was this network which connected people in the past, content creators in the past with people today who wanted to find information, and it was all community driven, right? So they created all of that, but they didn't have a way to monetize on it, which they figured out later. So like the value really comes in like the network. But what's cool with this is it's not driven by like the network is establishing and it's only growing as we speak right now without it being dependent on being fueled by a company that needs to pay salaries or operational expenses or marketing. That's
Exactly.
pretty cool.
Very
It's
cool.
just growing. It's just gonna grow like constantly.
We underestimate, right? What's actually, if you think about it, like this is a little uh abstract, or but how much energy, how much force is there latent without any outlet, without any options in the world, you know? And like how do you measure that? Well, you can't measure that. Maybe you can say, well, there's a lot of depression, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of emotions in the world, and maybe you could measure it that way, you know? What if the people had outlets? What if the people had possibilities where they felt they didn't? And what could happen, you know? Just saying that might be a measure of everything possible, and which is latent when you give the option and you put it in their hands. Like, oh yeah, you're a mother or father, or you're in a certain country and you're bound by these limitations. But now if you participate and contribute and get involved, all of a sudden you have all these possibilities, like right there, laid to your feet. It's, you can be at the most simple aspect, like you can mint it, but you can use it and you can elaborate with it. You can build with it, you can create with it, and you can create relationships. And it's all has that second dimension of value, not just data, right? Because data, like how many likes, what is a million likes going to do for you ultimately? And just, but just create maybe a bad habit of chasing them. What? Okay, sure. If you're set up properly, you can actually make use of it. But see what I'm saying? Like there could be like direct monetary value transmitted through the simple involvement, engagement, community, projects, whatever. Could People could do many things, and actually, like YouTube did, right? Expanded from having a YouTube channel, moving to an even further level where just likes and this and that is actually helping you out. Of course, if you do nothing and you just stay in your bed, that's not going to help you. But if you do stuff, it'll help you. And not everybody has a YouTube channel or wants to have a YouTube channel. But the second dimension of value given to Zen, I see open, like from YouTube channels and what else? What else can you monetize? Like, those kind of things. Now it's going to be like in all kind of things, like so many other things. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these likes and all of that stuff. The sad part of that story is that they've been engineering these platforms to keep your attention to them, right? So um that you're sort of like they have like behavioral psychologists that they hire to, and I don't know what the right professional titles are, but they engineer these platforms to make us hooked to them. um so
Yeah, there is the downside to it, no?
yeah, so I'm wondering if we create like our own social network um through Zen, how we could design those things in other ways, so they're not designed in a way to keep your attention to them. You ultimately want people to be out in the real life, not in here in this voice chat. uh
So, yeah,
so but
continue.
when we're incentivized, it's interesting when Hanidios is talking about, like, yeah, you could use these like buttons in order to send economic energy with Zen. So that's a cool function. um but like having that awareness when you're designing these stuff, so that they're not designed in order to um, create massive attention to the platform?
I think, I mean, to that question that you're posing, what comes to mind immediately is I think that would be something that would actually resolve itself and morph very easily, like quite easily, without having really to intervene, in the sense that if you have like, you don't have to remove the, I mean, the like, just like, you know, like it is now remains, but you have these other possibilities like, you know, heart or whatever it is, okay, but that transmits value in terms of Zen. So I could easily see how it becomes a kind of medium exchange, and people kind of put weight in it differently. You know, yeah, I can like your comment, so I just like your comment. I don't need to send you a Zen. I don't need to give you a thumbs up, because that's like a Zen, right? I give you a like for your joke, your comment. But I can send you a thumbs up though, and I can send you a heart, and I can maybe send you a, you know, an elephant or whatever, you know, worth 100 Zen. Uh, and I think people would quickly, especially with what the past history, this last, you know, decade or so, uh, in saying like when that person does something or says something or contributes something in a very valuable way, well, that warrants me to give them the heart or that or that or that. The like still stays there. I think people would readjust. Like, why would you be giving out Zen for just, you know, anything and everything? You'd be more, and that what that would do is it would kind of shift people towards the notion of being useful and being helpful and community driven in and of itself, right? What and it eliminates all the bots of the same token, like, you know, uh so I you know, because they can't be giving out Zen and Zen. They can give out likes, but can't be giving out a million Zen to I mean, some would obviously, probably, I guess, to win an election or something. I'll probably dump money in it, but that's not the point. It's just it creates a much bigger set of options and of communication, a spectrum of value, of this second dimension, a value that doesn't even exist as of now, really, not in practical terms. And we're just giving thumbs up and likes and stuff like that, you know, information. But yeah, I think it would have its own, a life of its own. We need not really much worry about it, how it would go about. I don't see much. I mean, I don't see much. You know, how could someone make bad use of that? Like, what, you're going to give so much money away? You know, like maybe there is, but I don't see it at first glance. Just gives more options and more meaning. And not just in a sense of money, not just like, oh, you know, like cash is meaning. It's not that. It's bringing back meaning to cash. It's bringing back, you know, humanity. It's like, yeah, it's one thing to say hi. It's one thing to wave your hand, but it's another thing to hug somebody, to put your hand on their shoulders. Uh, you know, to give them something of comfort. You know, it's kind of like in that, you know, can bring that to the internet. Maybe the younger generation that is depressed and anxious and doesn't feel much purpose. You know, the younger generations, maybe they find some kind of purpose through that, of either something to do, something to be useful, which can reward them, or rewarding others.
Yeah, maybe they are depressed because of the likes, because of the wrong incentives, and if you give a token to a like, then you exacerbate this even more. So I see it differently, and I in my head has other.
I can understand that, but I understand like how you're framing it and your perspective. However, and we were talking about this earlier, it's that, and that's why when I was talking about currency, like the true meaning of currency, like the truest meaning of currency was, I mean, friendship and good relations is like the best of all currencies. Okay, in the highest, in the highest spheres, there's this saying of wealthy people and stuff like trust is the most precious thing, right? People have billions and billions of dollars. They don't know who to trust or who they can trust, or they don't have any kind of, So I think money has lost much of its meaning. So yes, I see what you're saying, but on the other hand, I feel that it could possibly bring back some kind of humanity, like real, just meaning reality, human reality, to money or cash in a very particular way via the internet, because we could do it in the street. We can give money when we go to the store. We can contribute to donations and stuff. We can help a guy on the street. Okay. Whatever, our friends, our neighbors, but on the internet, it's not so readily available. And it's not really a thing, right? But I think you could bring some meaning to that. And I think what you're talking about when you talk about the exacerbation of likes and depression, that has a lot to do, and it's a very good point. It's a psychological thing, and it has to do a lot with it's narcissism, it's vanity, it's preoccupation with one's identity and one's self-image. And when that becomes exacerbated, it becomes like an obsession. It takes on a life of its own. And it's a very destructive thing for real humans. And that's what they're suffering from, especially when their peers are saying or implying that that's all that matters, or that's what matters most. So to have some money could actually, to have a new kind of money that actually gives real monetary value, like you could put food on your table. It's like you could actually do something with this here, could minimize the other toxic kind that you're alluding to. It could make it look cheap, because it is cheap, and lose appeal and value. And a shift could happen for them where, no, I don't need your likes. Like, that's I want to be part of something, and I want to exchange in a real way. It's possible. I'm not saying that's what would occur, but I could see how that shift could occur by just the fact of adding true value, and that people have to actually participate in that, choose to do that.
Yeah, this is also what I was wondering about one day, when I thought that maybe Zen is this currency, like current water, and so you need to measure it like like you measure water with cubits, no? And like meters, the length, you measure it with how you measure it in America, in feet, mass you in pounds, whatever. And so currency is a unit of value of this mass of water would be like a cubit, no? Like how to explain it? I cannot explain it.
I think again value as opposed to maybe just data again, or a number, but it's supposed to transport value.
Yeah, so currency is a unit of value, okay? So you need to treat it like that, like you need to give it a proper measure. It's we need. I think that we need to treat it like you treat the other units of measure, like length, like mass, and not that you. For example, I don't understand why we buy currency. Why you buy currency? It shouldn't be bought. And in a all Zen world where no other currencies exist because it's all Zen, there wouldn't be. You wouldn't go to buy Zen. There would be only Zen. So it would be like ocean, okay? So you would just take one qubit of Zen and you would give it to someone for something.
Right, as opposed to what?
Like so, for example, the problem is with this currency that we have now, because that we give value to currency, not to the people.
Yeah, yes, that's the perversion of what happens to cash. That's what I was alluding to. That currency, in its most original and true sense, was not about what we call nowadays, cash or currency, but it was far more significant initially. And with time, as commerce and capitalism and banking and all that stuff, it lost a lot of what it truly meant. And
yeah, it was just a mean of exchange. It was a mean of a unit. For example,
yes, it was, but it transported the unit of exchange and the market, but it also transported prosperity and peace and community. Like there was something to it. It was not just about numbers. It was not just about a bank account and stacking them up, but it was much more involved. I mean, I'm talking originally, right? Peaceful, people, countries that do commerce tend to be peaceful. Countries that close the doors to commerce tend to go to war. It's so the more commerce we do in the sense of exchanging true value and exchange, it's a positive thing. So, but there is a very negative aspect to cash or to money. When it becomes a it becomes a means, an objective in itself, not to a means to something, but the objective itself, the goal itself, right?
Yeah, well, maybe we should just study better the what is value, why we value something, and things like that. No.
Yeah, like there's, I think maybe what you were meaning was with the units is like there's a weight to it, like it's something tangible that relates to people.
Yeah, because it's the people who create value, nothing else. So it comes from the people. So it needs to be tied to them, no?
Exactly. And yeah. And the internet as well. I mean, short from the bots, But the you know, what brings you, for example, why do you come on the internet, or you come here, or you go read this or that? I mean, it's about the people. It's what the creators are doing, and what they're bringing to the table, and you're wanting to see that, witness, and share in that, contribute. Um, I just know that I could do that here. You know, where I live, I have plenty, you know, of neighbors, and relationships, and on a daily basis. And there's not just likes that are exchanged. There's you know, I'll share some food that was prepared. I'll share some, you know, things seasonal, whatever. I'll make a batch, and there's some people that will get some. We'll have dinner, or we'll have a chat. There's a whole bunch of things that happens, but it's not just always just text or likes. There's actual sharing, you know, and it doesn't do any harm. Actually, it kind of strengthens relationships, and can actually bring to business ideas, and partnerships, and all kinds of things like that. And if Zen were to facilitate that and bring it more like it is in the real world, like I can see a guy who's very cheerful, but he's asking if you know, he can have some change, or he hasn't eaten or whatever. And I feel like I like the guy, and I can give him money right then and there. And then I had a guy, he lived, personal story. I met a guy this is maybe 10 years or so, 12 years ago. And this guy was in the neighborhood where I lived. And he was an old Polish man, very intelligent guy, but he had issues with drugs, you know, whatever. And I'd see him on the street regularly, and I'd have a chat with him, and just like that, you know, hey, how you doing? And we got to know each other because I would go buy my food in that neighborhood. And this happened for like a year or two. And then one day I saw him, he was pushing down some, like, this big buggy that he got in a store, and he had this laundry and stuff. And he was homeless at that point, right? And it'd say, hey, how you doing? It's, oh, I gathered some money. So he had gathered some money on the street to be able to go wash his clothes at the laundromat. And it's like, cost like, I don't know, $6, and all in all, to do his wash. And he took a time for him to gather that. So it's like, hey man, I live just 5 streets from there. And I said, like, I have a washing machine, and you can come do it at my place. So, oh yeah, da, da, da. And he came over, and it ended up, it just so happened that I had a quite a big living arrangement. And I had this like extra room, and he just chatted, and it was like, oh, I've been looking for a place, but he had difficulty in finding a place, right? Because he of his credentials or whatever. But I knew him from 2 years, and he was always very, you know, sympathetic, okay? And uh, I offered him to rent, and he rented the room, and he stayed there for a little over a year. And through that, I met his whole family, which they were lived in this huge house, $1 million+ house, not so far from there. And they didn't have drug issues, or were not homeless. And they were an extended family, like 3 generations living in that house. And I ended up becoming great friends with them. I did some things for them, some work and stuff. So anyway, long story short, it's just like, you know, all because of a little bit of money. And so I just to give an example how in the real life, you know, things are so much, there's this other dimension, right? I helped the guy truly, and that led to another thing, and another thing, and another thing.
You are so good. Such a good heart.
Honey deals. You think you could help me understand some staking questions?
Could be. What's up?
So I'm ready to start staking, and I have been for a couple of days, but I haven't pulled any triggers. And right now, I'm technically just waiting for some gas to come back down. But the early mints I made are coming due, and I know if I stake before 90 days, I'm going to get 20%. Jack last night or 2 nights ago was talking about staking for 30, 60, and 90 days. Do you know the reason behind that would make more sense than going for the full 1,000?
How long? This is going to be what, a 15 days mint? About, or how long is this mint?
Oh my! So I've for some reason I did a bunch of 1-day mints, 3-day mints, 7-day mints, 5-day mints on day one, and they're all have come and due. I don't know why I did it, but I did it. And the first day I made a lot of money. Now they're just paying for themselves, but they're all in profit, believe it or not, even with the gas fees, because I'm finding low gas fees. But I want to start staking them so I could start earning my APY.
So we're talking about, for example, $300,000 mint, 300,000 Zen mint, or maybe even 100,000 Zen mint.
Yeah, I got some 55,000 mints. Yes. Small. 314,000 is one of them I'm looking at right here now.
Okay, so I'll just give you the straight up answer. I've explained this to others as well, like and close to me that so there's nothing to do with it. There's just nothing to do with them. If you want the straight answer, because people do want to stake and all that, but you just have to cut your losses. Okay, take the money that you were going to spend to stake it. You will never, ever, ever make it worthwhile. Okay, so take that money and make another mint. Make a long-term mint for yourself. That money will be just about the same amount, and you'll end up with 30 million Zen in 400 days. If you put that 55,000 to stake, you're going to get 20% per year, means 60% over 3 years if you did the 1,000 days, which means your 55,000 is going to jump up to somewhere around roughly 80,000. Okay? How does that even come close to 30 million? And that's in 3 years, where the 30 million, you'll get them in 400 days.
How about if I consolidate them all and do one stake? I got like 10 million worth I could probably get together and then stake all that one shot.
So, okay, again, 10 million. Now, how many transactions did you do to get them all together?
Yeah, a lot. Too many.
And now that 10 million, same example, you put them for 3 years and you're going to end up with 16 million. Whereas for one transaction, you could get 30 million in 400 days.
So what good is the staking feature?
Well, it's good when you have a 30 million mint.
Yeah, but it's not going to be a 20% APY by then.
No.
It'll probably be 17 or 16%.
Exactly, or 8% or 5%, but that's why we've been explaining quite a bit, as much as possible. Whoever can, hear it, because it's a relative small people that come into the voice chat compared to the masses. Like, do not focus on the staking. I understand that people, they have this like in other projects, and that's a very valuable part of it, but nothing compares to the minting with Zen. Minting is your biggest, the term days is the best thing. Like, it's the biggest variable, choosing the longest term. And that's how you optimize in relation to the gas that you spent. And choosing the gas fees is another thing, like choosing your spots. And you don't worry about the staking, because the math is so simple. Like, if you have 10 million and you stake it, you'll end up with 16 million in a year. If you have, that's at 20%. If you have 30 million, okay, and you're getting 10% staking when you stake it, not 20. You're going to be getting 3 million a year, which means on a total of 3 years, you'll get 9 million. So at 10%, you're making more, 9 million, whereas the other one at 20%, you made only 6 million.
Absolutely. It's so clear. Thank you for light bulbs are mint long term, constantly, just not right now. Just keep minting as long as possible with the lowest gas fees, and I'm going to win at the end. Right
Bingo.
now, for
Bingo.
until some kind of price works or something, right? Then you sell some of it, liquidate it to get money.
Exactly. Like, listen, you'll have some great timeline points. So after that mint, the 400 days, you can check it out if you want and see. Like, I don't suggest anything really personally. It's my suggestion earlier than that. I'm not hoping that in 3 months the price is going to pump, and it's like, so people want to have money on the side. Now you have some, just keep it liquid. Don't stake it. Don't bother with it. Keep it liquid. If there is a pump, to get the best you can. But it's not going to be huge because it's still going down. So the pump will be lower than it is now relatively. So you just pick your spots and you spread them out. You pay the lowest gas fees and you spread them out nice and even, and you keep going like that. And why nice and even? Because you don't want to put everything on the same day in case you get caught with a high gas fee or like a whole week's time. So if you put them like every weekend, you figure out how much you want to do, maybe 5 every weekend, whatever, and you just keep going consistently and you push out your stakes. And what's going to happen is that after that first year, for example, at 400 days, you're going to start having these mints. And now you can, if you want, you can claim them. You check the price. I doubt that will be the optimal time. I wouldn't sell after 1 year mint, but then you can check it. And if it makes sense to stake them, you see the price, you say, yeah, maybe I can get 20% or whatever, but I value my Zen more than that. So now you stake them for 1,000 days. And that's what I'm going to do. And then at that point, you have you're at half time, 4 years on an 8-year span. I think that will be a great point to consider and look. And then maybe you say, okay, I'm going to keep like 20, 30, 50% liquid, whatever. And I'm going to stake the rest for another 3 years. And that way I'll have some liquid to play with and maybe take off the table if there is a huge pump.
I see this might not even have dollar value someday. I mean, it's like the gold rush, right? Gold, what was the value of gold when everybody headed west at the time? They just wanted to accumulate it because I could buy things with it. So I see it maybe like running parallel with fiat someday, or not really replacing it, but used for the same purpose. So as many as I can get of these Zen tokens, the more value it'll have to me for buying milk or chickens or something like that someday that I might need.
Could be milk and chicken, and it could be maybe not at that point yet in the in the, let's say, the 4 or 5 year span, but definitely what's competing is the demand. It could be that the demand is there, and now the different products, services, whatever are there. And that's what fiat is always competing for. All the fiats of the world, they're competing in a way for demand. That's why they say you can't take your money out of the bank. You can't spend that much, or they try to keep the currency in their countries and restrict it because they want to ensure that it doesn't sell off, right? So it's like that demand. Yeah, so Zen could be competing seriously with other currencies, and there's a lot of demand. And then you don't want to sell it, right? Like as you see that grow, now you even want to more so just hold it and stake it and get whatever you can. Be 10%, 8%, maybe other applications. I'm sure there'll be other applications that'll come out for Zen. So yeah, but you want to optimize your gas. At the end of the day, when all your mints will have come due and you'll have gathered everything up, and maybe a few of them you will have lost either because you forgot about them or they were too expensive because of a gas spike. And maybe you didn't want to spend the money at that time to collect what cost you $3 or $4 to mint. At the end of the day, you'll have X amount of Zen, you'll have spent X amount of dollars or Ethereum, and that'll give you your average price paid your Zen, and that's where your margin of your profit margin will be.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay.
You help another person. Good things are coming your way.
They are. It felt like that the whole week.
You know, the best thing about it is that I can go help someone else now. That's the reward.
Yes, hopefully, yes, please do, because this has been a misunderstanding I've been hearing over and over, and people wanting to stake early, thinking that staking earlier and making short mints was actually a good strategy. And you know, I've said many times in this project, you know, it's not like other projects where you win because the other guy lost. Okay, it doesn't work like that. Here we win because everybody wins. And if people are getting wrecked with Zen because they're playing it, it's not going to help the community. It's just going to create more FUD. We've had already some in the beginning, obviously, because people just jumped head first. And then we have to fix that, and we have to educate more. And so, yeah, please do help anyone who's seeming to have the same, misconception about the staking.
Hey, Honey Deals, did you see the new tab on the website, Portfolio? It's cool. You could add all your accounts right there and manage it from the Portfolio tab.
Right. Actually, I didn't look at it. I talked about it with the guy who made it, and he told me, well, he was saying, because he's working on what should be a tool to help people, but the portfolio was actually hidden. He told me he had made it for himself. I don't know if that's the complete product, but I think he's coming up with some. Does it offer you any kind of possibility to import a calendar or?
Not yet. That's why it's good, because I can see all my accounts and it tells me the term, tells me the balances, it gives me the OX numbers, but it's still a little cumbersome managing it. But it's way better than using MetaMask to try and figure out where the hell I stand. That's for damn sure. It's really good that way. They're all in one spot. And at a glance, I know what's coming due and when the mints are due and what the values of them are. It's really cool.
Okay, cool. So my guess is, because he said a day or two ago that it was there, but he hid it. So it wasn't like a link, and he was using it for himself, but he felt it wasn't ready. It wasn't to publish out. And I'm guessing probably he just, because another guy had found it, and he probably let it be visible. He put a
It
link.
literally popped up about an hour ago. I was minting and boom, there it is, Portfolio.
Okay. So yeah, I was expecting to talk with him yesterday, but I wasn't here much, so maybe I missed him, and we were going to test some things out. So yeah, anyway, he's been working on that for the last 2 days. Well, that's cool. There was more maybe planned, but there was some technical, hurdles to overcome. He's trying, obviously, to make everything decentralized. He doesn't want to have to keep data on his side or anything like that. He wants to be absolutely most non-intrusive, which makes things a little bit more challenging. for like fancy functionalities, but he's trying. He's trying.
Right. Like I'd like to be able to sort it or organize it in my own for my own benefit, a couple different ways, maybe by the length of days. Right now, it kind of just plugs it in where the mint happened. When I'm copying them over, I noticed.
Okay. Well,
There's no particular order.
the plan ultimately, we'll see if it's possible, but it seemed very viable. The plan is that we could possibly export a file, which is a basic calendar file, a standard, and import in just about any kind of application, calendar application, like Google Calendar on Android or on Apple, and have it trigger, right? Have it do an alarm. So that's the ultimate objective, to have everything there and import a file.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's what he's actively working on now. So we'll see what the end result is, but it's looking good. He's moving along.
Because if I miss a claim, the percentage goes down pretty fast, right? Of the value of the number of tokens. So that's an important feature to know when to claim.
Yeah, it's important. But interesting fact we came up with 2 nights ago. Someone raised the point that actually when that happens and like you're maybe a day late or 2 days late, like it could be actually happen that you may choose to be 4 days late, because what it was saying, it's like if you pay twice the gas fee to claim your mint, okay, what's that good? You might as well wait for the gas to come down if it's really in a peak and just take your 35% loss rather than paying 200%.
Yeah, I got a feeling that 100-day from launch is going to be a big day for gas.
Yeah. My suggestion again, like if you can dollar cost average in, I mean, it really depends how much you want to put in, but if you want to put in more, like dollar cost average in, make those long mints cheap price, and you'll fix any mistakes you may be made in the beginning, not understanding so clearly, and it'll just bring the price way down for your total average Zen bag, like easily, because they're so big, those ones, the long ones, like 30 million. It won't matter, those few ones, they'll get erased.
Kind of seems to be like everything in my life. When I know, I really don't know. And I thought I knew, but I really didn't know. This is so unique. It's brand new. Everything it's really good. Really good.
So many people have been saying that and having that impression. And I noticed, I've said this a few times in the last few days, like I just noticed this trend that when people come in, or I've had conversations, and there was this one guy, it was incredible, actually saved the recording because it was such an interesting conversation. This guy, he was a guy in crypto since 2000, very early on. And he had been in like, he bought like Solana for 30 cents, and he just very early on in many projects and before Solana. And he said that this had been how it was for him, and that he'd have always been good in seeing the value in projects, and that he had not had losses, and that he had made huge gains, and he was like, and you could tell he knew what everything he was talking about and all the little details. And he said in the end, like, he had never been so bullish on a project than Zen, in his opinion. And that's the trend that I've been seeing, is that the more people have experience in crypto, the more they tend to be bullish with Zen, which is, to me makes a lot of sense because they're able to see the tokenomics and how it's
Right.
unique. Yeah.
So far, it's answered all the reasons I'm in crypto. I haven't found a reason that I'm in it that Zen hasn't answered yet for me. It's DeFi to its extreme, and it's fair. All the first principles, right? Isn't that what Jack says? He hit them all.
Yeah. Yeah. And not to mention like many other things that for some reason are just aligning and converging together. And I just find it very pleasant to see how, there's some projects out there without naming names, but there are several, the blockchain or tokens or whatever that are like waiting for the bull market, right? They want to launch in the bull market. And because, they don't want to be in the bear market and for it to be a flop. And it's just so interesting to see how Zen is like launching during the bear market. And you could think, oh, that's not a good time. People are kind of down. They don't have money and there's not so much interest and whatever. And it's like to see this explosion in the bear market of a coin is quite impressive. Like beating all the records. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
It's like SHIB. You remember like SHIB when it was like going up and we're in the bull market, right? And it's like all this buzz and all. And you look at SHIB and there's 1.2 million wallets. And that was a big, that was a big deal. SHIB. Yeah, obviously there's more
I
wallets.
did pretty good with it. I think I had like 9 zeros, 1 7 or something when I bought it. I did pretty good with it, but it's not this. That's for dang sure. It's not this. I also got wrecked with it a few times.
Yeah, I didn't chase it. I don't like chasing, but yeah, so I didn't get into that really. Oh, I got some free something from somewhere, a few of them, a few 100,000 or 1,000,000 or whatever. But yeah, no, I mean, we're ground floor here. Very different concept, the whole zero supply, but it's cool to see that so many people recognize the value of that. Not everyone, and there's a lot of confusion, but there's a lot that do, like there's a lot of bullishness. And initially to have the Hex community be quite bullish, many of them anyway, that's a good sign as well, because these people are, they understand crypto quite well.
So I was thinking the other day when I open my front door of my house and I walk out on the front porch and a neighbor gets in his car and it lifts off the ground and flies by at eye level. That's kind of what Zen's doing to me right now. It's like, it's futuristic, but it's real.
Like
It's not
Zen's
like
an evolution.
imagine.
Zen's a total evolution. This is going to change things permanently, in my opinion. Not a revolution, it's an evolution. This is going to be marked in history.
Where can I trade Evmos Zen and Moonbeam Zen? Where they can be traded? To be honest, I didn't get it because it took me so much time. I was looking for bridges, I was looking for swapping, and I find I tried some bridges, but after the fee went already so high, and I said, okay, I will wait a little bit. And then in the end, I didn't participate. I said, I will just wait when the fees will be lower. And that's it. But I wanted to try. But I found this exchange, Rando Exchange, that has all the cross swaps of all possible chains. I think there are 40 of them, and you
Including
can do
including them.
bridges, swaps, everything there. The only thing is that obviously we don't know how secure this thing is, like any other bridge out there. So,
Right.
but it seems that people use it. So
What is the name?
you just need to take the risk if you want to.
Yeah, well, you can do tests, right? Like usually I do tests, but I don't know about things that I see, you know. I look on chain if there's any info and I see if I get my funds, and then if it seems to work, I'll increase the amounts. What is the name of this? Because many people were looking yesterday and not finding.
Rando exchange, and it has all the chains, bridges, swaps, whatever.
Rando, like random
Yes,
without an M?
Rando.
That Rando, or is there an M?
Yes, yes,
Rando.
and you can see the routing they do, and it's pretty awesome because they show you all the bridges they swap, they route through, and obviously the fee will be high because you need to go from one bridge to another, but yeah, you can do it in one click. You don't have to download all the different wallets. It's one interface for everything.
I'm not finding it. There's like no search result. Rando, Rando.
Yes, I think
Exchange.
Rando dot exchange. I
Rando.
check.
I tried that too. Did not load any page.
Sorry, it's Rengo, not Rando. Rengo.
Like rainbow, raingo,
No, G, Rengo.
rango. Okay, let me try that. Yes, got it. Okay, thank you. Oh, that's kind of, I don't know, kind of cool looking. Okay, it's cool.
Yeah,
However, I'm
yeah,
not seeing.
yesterday I spent maybe 1 hour or more to to search for bridges and swaps and to get this glimmer.
Well, I'm not seeing the glimmer. That's what I'm wondering. Did you get the glimmer here? Because
If I get it. No, I finally didn't get it because when I got to this Rango, the fee was already $10 per swap. And I said, okay, I wait. It was just before the launch. And then in the end, I didn't do anything, no?
it's not giving me that glimmer. It's GLMR, right? Glimmer.
Yeah, you
And-
need to insert the network, the two networks. No, from Ethereum, for example, you transfer Ethereum to moon thing. How you call it? Moon.
okay. Moonbeam. Connect
Yeah,
Moonbeam, and then I'll be able to buy Glimmer.
yeah.
Glimmer. Oh, okay. Okay.
Just like that.
I see. Okay. Okay. Because I was on BNC. That's on BSC. That's why it wasn't showing Glimmer. I guess that's not the bridge.
How's it going, gentlemen? Hani, I don't know if you tried Mexi. That's another easier way to actually get Glimmer and EVMOS.
Maxi. Okay. This is looking so maybe cheaper. I don't know. This is if it's there. Yeah, it's looking easy, but yeah, I just found it because it's the way it's made. You have to choose the chains, right? Of course. So I was just on the default. So now I'm Ethereum and Moonbeam, and now I can choose Glimmer. And how are the fees over there? Because I'm gonna. Well, it's not just for me, but I'll be relaying. Are the fees good there on Maxi?
It's 0.02%.
Okay, cool. Thanks.